What's up, you big, beautiful Madridistas and everyone else joining in who is not Madridista? Because I know there's a lot of you guys now. You guys are piling on. You are joining the podcast. You're welcome as well. We're going to talk Real Madrid drawing Manchester City in the Champions League. But first, hey, Jude, this is the last day. This is it. This is January 31st, which means February 1st, tomorrow, this shirt will no longer be on sale ever again. It's done. It's finished. It'll be gone forever off the shelves. If you want your copy of the Hey Jude shirt designed by our very own resident cartoonist, Finn, the link is in the comments. The link will be in the show notes. Also, if you head on over to managingmadrid.com right now on the website, because I know a lot of you guys listen to the podcast, but you don't consume the written stuff. There's all kinds of great stuff. Vig Sopti, who is now a radiologist on staff, and you may have tuned into the episode where we talked about Real Madrid's injuries and what's causing them and Pintus and all this stuff. He wrote an article explaining the injuries to Carvajal, Militao, Alaba, Jean Martinez, their recovery and what it looks like, 1 to 2 years from now. And also Camavinga's little niggle, Jude Bellingham's shoulder, all of that is over on managingmadrid.com. And Matt Wiltsey also wrote a feature about the journey of Brahim Diaz and Dani Ceballos over the years at Real Madrid. And of course, my column, the top 30 most fun players in Real Madrid history, is also pinned on the website. I'll be joined by Angelo Valdez soon, hopefully. If you know, you know. In the meantime, let's get started and we'll get some thoughts about Manchester City.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, Real Madrid drew Manchester City today in the Champions League draw to nobody's surprise. Not a single person on earth woke up this morning thinking, oh, I wonder who Real Madrid are going to draw in the Champions League. Will it be Celtic? Will it be Manchester City? No, everyone knew that if you're on the west coast of the USA, you're going to wake up to Real Madrid have drawn Manchester City. And if you watch it in Europe right at the noon time slot, you also were not surprised that Real Madrid drew Manchester City. Now, I don't really believe in the conspiracies. I know some people are very much like this is a fixed draw. Real Madrid have to play Manchester City every single year. Guys, come on. I don't think that was the case. Let's be honest. UEFA did not plan for Manchester City to be shit for most of the Champions League or for Real Madrid to blow it up, just blow themselves out for half these Champions League games. So they were both relatively lower seeding than anybody ever expected. And so we're in this freak scenario now that Real Madrid might have to go to Manchester City. And if they slay Manchester City, they'll have to slay either Arsenal or Inter, probably. If they slay Arsenal or Inter, then they'll probably have to slay... I jumped the gun. Arsenal Leverkusen, am I getting that right? Atletico Leverkusen. Dear God, I swear I was prepared for this podcast. It just all of a sudden got too intertwined in my brain. So if we beat Manchester City, then we're gonna go face Atletico or Leverkusen, and if we beat one of those teams, then we're likely gonna face Arsenal, Inter, and then if we beat one of those teams, possibly Barca, Liverpool. But let's not jump the gun. We got so much time to talk about all that stuff. A lot of bridges to cross when we get there. Manchester City. We're in this freak scenario where we not only have to play 2 playoff games in an already grueling schedule with a depleted defensive depth chart, but we have to do it against Manchester City. There was a lot of talk about, is Manchester City really a bad team? Like, is this a team you want to face? Are they really worse than some of these other teams above them? And my thing has always been like a team like that clearly has pedigree. Although, look, they've only won 1 Champions League title after all these years, but they have experience. Let's be honest. Let's not belittle them, despite the struggles they've had this season. It's a lot of the stuff, despite them being a different team than they were last year in terms of who's available in the roster because of health reasons, the differences in their league form, obviously, they're not as good as they were, like last year. But even then, I remember last year heading into that Manchester City tie, we had similar conversations in that this team is not the same City that beat us 4-0 the year prior. So we talked about them in that light. But the reality is, whether they're the same team, they're at their peak of their powers or not, tactically speaking, they will give us challenges. And their profile, like teams who play that way, have given us challenges multiple times in the past. If you want to stick to this season, we can talk about Barcelona and Liverpool. Lucas and I just did a mailbag and we talked about, why are Real Madrid struggling in big games this season? In years prior, it's always been they struggle in the smaller games in La Liga or the smaller games in the Champions League against lower blocks, and in the big games where they have to face bigger opponents, they raise their level. They come with their A game, they play better. And part of that, like the scientific explanation for that, is in part to me that they have to play more open games in those situations. Teams will press them, there's more space to work with. And I think, to simplify it, if you kind of strip away all the issues and you want to get to the bare bones and the most simple explanation, I think part of the reason they've struggled against big teams this season is because big teams have pressed them, and this team hasn't been able to escape pressure consistently to be able to find Mbappe, to find Vinny, to find Rodrigo consistently and prolifically to generate a high volume of transition opportunities. And if we're to strip it down one more layer, Toni Kroos. Toni Kroos was the guy who was kind of orchestrating all this last season and years prior. So that's one explanation. Anyways, I know you guys are not here for me. You guys are here for Mr. Will Angelo Valdez. He's back after I don't even know how long. What's up? What's up, Will? Are you ready?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, bro.
Is it too loud?
You're perfect. You're perfect.
No, you're perfect, bro. I'm
No,
late. Sorry, guys. But I'm late. Actually, I have an excuse. You want to know why?
Please.
I was checking at Pep Guardiola's record this season, and let me tell you guys, it's horrible. Against big teams, we're horrible. So we're in for a good one, bro. We're in for a good one.
Will, were you surprised when you saw we drew City?
Obviously not. A lot of people here believe that for some reason, our president, our beloved president, has some type of power in UEFA. This has obviously been proven, actually the opposite, proven wrong. We got City like the fourth season in a row. In fact, I don't know if you've talked about this already, but you want me to tell you Real Madrid knockout opponents since 2017?
I'd love to hear it.
2017, Napoli, Bayern Munich, Atletico de Madrid, Juventus. Guess who won the Champions League that year? Real Madrid. 2018, Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, Bayern Munich, Liverpool. Guess who won the Champions League that year? Real Madrid. 2019, that year never happened, actually. I don't know, never happened. The Champions League never happened that year. 2020, Champions League against Manchester City. We lost. Okay, you have one, Guardiola. 2021, Atalanta, Liverpool, Chelsea. Big teams. 2022, Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea, City, Liverpool. We know that one. 2023, Liverpool, Chelsea, City. 2024, Leipzig. Great team. City, Bayern, Dortmund. And now we have City in a new format. And I was surprised, bro. I wasn't surprised because we knew it was going to be either City or Bayern. But
Celtic.
I want this to happen. I wanted this to happen.
So you're saying that it's necessary for us to play against the best teams?
Yes.
Because it brings out our best level.
Yes, and we know this already. And you've talked about this plenty of times in the past. It's not only about it brings our best. It's also we're not facing a low block, which is probably our worst opponent, right? If like Ancelotti's Real Madrid doesn't know how to break a low block. So it's beautiful to play against this Manchester City who have shown weakness. Like this isn't the invincible team we faced a few years ago. This isn't that team that beat us 4-0 at the Etihad. This isn't the team that last year we had to defend basically the whole tie just to make sure we can go to penalties. Like, this isn't that unbreakable team. This is a weaker Manchester City. And this isn't also the strongest Real Madrid, but it's a Real Madrid team that has gotten better throughout the season. And let me tell you, the best players play in Madrid for this tie. Mbappe is better than Haaland. Bellingham is better than any midfielder Real Madrid, Manchester City have at the moment. And Vini is probably the best attacker. So we're favorites.
You know, if you look at the differences, Will, from this season to last season, Manchester City, you know, they don't have Kyle Walker. I mean, even if they had him, they don't have like the real Kyle Walker, right? He's not him. He's not who he used to be. So I mean, that was a problematic matchup for us in the past. Walker versus Vinny 2 years ago was, at least. Obviously, they have their injury concerns. Rodri's out for the year. Rodri has given us all kinds of problems. I guess this is what concerns me, is that, and look, if I had to face Manchester City, you know, this is the time to face them. You know, and I can't complain too much about it.
Yeah.
I thought John. You know, I had a chance to catch up on their last game against Club Brugge. You know, it was, you know, John Stones coming in and seeing him just do that thing where he goes from defense to midfield and he causes all kinds of problems. He killed us in that role a couple of years ago. And you have their winter signings, and Pep was talking today about, like, you know, we have winter signings coming, and Marmoush will play, and, you know, this kid Husanov, like, you know, he's a kid. I don't know how much is experience going to play against him in a game like this. I don't know if he's going to be like their game changing presence for them. But this is what actually kind of concerned me. Because I remember, and you know, we all remember that game at the Etihad last season. It was one of the most memorable games for obvious reasons. The penalty shootout was epic.
Yeah.
I just, being there in person last season, it was extra special. And I just remember seeing Toni Kroos. And just before you hopped on, Will, I was talking about how I think part of the reason Real Madrid are struggling in big games this season is because the bigger teams, they press them, and we just haven't been able to escape pressure consistently. And I think that's part of the reason we struggled against Liverpool, against Barca, Milan as well. And I think not having Kroos at the Etihad obviously sucks. You know, it'd be cool if, like, hey, Tony, can you just lace it up just like for a couple games here? It would be nice to have you. So that's one big question mark I have. But, you know, it's a bit cliche, Will, bro, but, you know, this is the Champions League. We got to go through all the best teams.
Yep.
And we got to go through these guys. I just hope that this, you know, the Champions League season is not over in February, because that's like, it's coming up. It's like in 2 weeks.
That'd be so sad. Honestly, that'd just be so sad. Imagine, like, if we just get beat at because this isn't even this isn't round of 16, right? This is before.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So it would be just sad. But I don't think it will happen, right? I honestly believe that it's actually a pretty interesting tie, because both teams have struggled against in their big test, right? Like, I'm looking at Real Madrid, Manchester City's record against, like, big test record this season. They drew against Inter in the Champions League. They drew against Arsenal in the Premier League. They lost versus Tottenham. They lost versus Sporting in the Champions League. Lost versus Tottenham again. Lost versus Liverpool. They drew against Feyenoord in the Champions League. They lost versus Juve. Lost versus United. I mean, lost versus PSG the other day. The thing is, basically, that has happened to us the same season. We've basically lost or drew every single big game this season. So it's gonna be interesting. I do believe that we also have the second leg at Bernabeu, which is gonna be great. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be good. And the Cruz thing, right? That was always going to be a conversation, especially in Champions League against those big teams. But isn't Ceballos playing right now like he's the best Spanish midfielder we've seen in years? Because Ceballos, and you've talked about this, man. You know what? I gotta give it to you. Hey, you know, a few seasons ago, you said he was going to be the unsung hero of the season. That prediction was like a year late, or a year earlier, I must say, a year early, because it's coming now. He's the unsung hero this season. And this guy it's in an age, he's 27 years old. It's an age when midfielders usually start to get into their prime. This same thing happened with Modric. Modric came to Madrid at like that same age, at like 26, 27, and he started getting into his prime by like 29, 30. And Ceballos is helping a lot with that. And also, what about David Alaba, who's already played a few minutes? Is he going to be a starter for this tie? That's a question.
I think he's going to be starting by then.
I think so too. And you know what? That helps with the ball progression. But is he going to be physical enough to deal with Erling Haaland? Because I remember last time he was a starter at Etihad, we got cooked by Gabriel Jesus. You remember the goal? It was early goal. He got cooked.
David Alaba versus Manchester City has a few bad moments. Do you? But that leads me to another question because you brought up Ceballos, you brought up Alaba. Are we sure Ancelotti's starting lineup will be? Because I think a lot of Real Madrid fans are confident, but that confidence is somewhat contingent on who Carlo Ancelotti puts out. Is he going to bench Ceballos and Asensio and Fran Garcia? I mean, like, there's no universe where Ferland Mendy doesn't start these games. There's no way. It's just not on the table. Carlo's going to trust. I mean, Ferland Mendy, to be fair, has been crucial in these Champions League knockout ties basically for 4 years or whatever it's been. And I think last season is if you just hope that last season is something that you can go by and say that last season Ferland Mendy wasn't that good, and then in the knockout stages he just kind of got better and better, and that's what you need. If it can just be Ferland Mendy, peak Ferland Mendy defensively, that's just a huge upgrade. Like even if he does nothing else, he does not attack, he does not cross the halfway line. If he can just be the Ferland Mendy that's wing one of the best wing backs in Europe defensively, then that would be huge for Real Madrid. So yeah, I don't know. Huge, yeah. So I have questions for you because it's been a while. Like we haven't recorded probably since the fall. Rodrigo getting informed just in time.
You know what, Rodrigo? You got me. You know what? I was wrong. I was one of those fools that left the R behind. Hey, I can see you. I can see you now. I'm sorry, Rodrigo. I think this guy was most known for being Manchester City's father. I think he's getting into really good form, and this is perfect for him, right? This is also perfect for the club. This is what Florentino wanted. The whole point of having Mbappe, Rodrigo, and Vini is the one game that Vini is not playing, Rodrigo can be there or Mbappe can be there. The one game that Mbappe is not there, the other ones can perform. This is great, but also we've seen the best from Rodrigo probably playing for the left. We've seen that for a few years now. Let's see what's going to happen in this tie. Talking about about Ceballos and Asensio, if he's going to bench them, Ancelotti, of course. I think Real Madrid biggest game before Brest was probably against Leipzig, right? And against Leipzig, Asensio and Valverde both played in defense, and Ceballos was a starter. Against Salzburg.
Salzburg,
yeah. So I think Ancelotti knows now that for big games, his right back has to be Federico Valverde. I think he knows that. And if you put Valverde at right back, then that's a spot for Ceballos. The only question I have is Tchouaméni. Is he gonna play Asensio or Tchouaméni at center back? I think Ceballos has to start now. And if Tchouaméni plays at midfield, then it's okay. And basically Modric goes to the bench. But if Tchouaméni plays at center back, then he goes for Modric. So is he gonna play Modric on these big games? Is he gonna play Asensio? I will personally go for Asensio. I think he's shown that he's actually a better center back than Tchouaméni. That's the truth. Like if you want to play Modric, I just go for Modric and Asensio. Why is it Asensio or Tchouaméni? But I think in that part, hopefully he starts Asensio and Valverde, because Tchouaméni, even against Brest, he looked lost at center back. Let's be honest, it's just not that good.
If I'm pretty, if I had to like lean one way or the other, what Ancelotti will do, like right now, and look, we're like, a couple weeks out ish. I think Alaba will be a starter by then. Ancelotti has said several times, like in the lead up to these games, that Alaba will start as soon as he tells me he's ready to start, and like that's literally up to Alaba. So if
That's
Alaba
crazy.
comes,
Isn't that crazy, bro? Isn't
uh,
that crazy?
this is how Ancelotti has always operated. He has a circle of trust. He he'll go based on the names on the back of the shirt that have.
Isn't that crazy though? I mean, that this guy has won us 3 Champions Leagues. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's I don't see eye to eye with a lot of that stuff. I think with based on merit, based on how he's performed, Asensio should be a starter. I also think he's outperformed Chouameni, no question. And I also think that let's say if, by the way, because you mentioned Fede Valverde at right back. If Vasquez plays, I'm not thrilled about it. Okay,
That we're cooked.
I think we're all in agreement with that. I think Pep will just target that matchup. I don't know if Doku will be back. Pep said that Doku will be back. Either way, whoever plays in that left wing for them, they're gonna go at Vasquez.
Yep.
Um, and I just trust Fede Valverde more in that position from an individual defensive standpoint. 1v1 defending, he's better in the air. Like you'll see balls like down the wing, and when Fede plays right back and he just leaps up and he wins that aerial duel, Vasquez can't. Like he doesn't have the physical ability to do that. So I would trust Fede Valverde there more. And you asked the question about Chouameni versus Asensio. Well, if Fede plays right back, that might be more of a reason for Chouameni to actually play DM in that game. So, I if you think back to like 2022, Ancelotti won those games off the bench, with the bench mob that came in.
Right.
Will Ceballos start, or will he come in off the bench and fuck shit up? Same with Brahim, And so I think a lot of, the subs will make an impact one way or the other late in the game. If Ceballos doesn't start, I think he should because of the ball progression in the defense. But what's interesting, Will, about this City team, like even like their profile, like you look at the numbers, they don't press as much as they used to. Like
No, they don't.
passes per defensive action, to get a little bit nerdy about this. They're at about 12, which makes them the 14th most aggressive pressing team in the Premier League. Like these are the teams that press more than them: Fulham, Brentford, Wolves, Southampton, Chelsea, United, Newcastle, Brighton, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Tottenham, Arsenal. So they don't press as aggressively as they should or as they used to. When you think back to like the 2 games last year, Will, what was interesting is that when Real Madrid decided to take the game to City, they did. Like it wasn't a problem. That first leg, they attacked, scored 3 goals. They had the better of City in the first half in that first leg. And in the second leg, if we remember, like because everyone talks about we parked the bus. The first 20 minutes, we dominated possession. Remember?
Yeah.
Then we scored, and then Ancelotti was like, "All right, that's enough, guys. That's enough.
Yeah.
Get back and play defense for the rest of the game, and make sure every single Madridista around the world gets a heart attack, and just defend for your lives." So I don't know. It'll be really interesting how that part of it is approached as well.
Of course, bro. And I'm checking. With PSG, they had 37% possession. They're not even that good at keeping the ball, which is weird because that was like their best thing. Like these guys looked invincible. You just couldn't get the ball off of them. They are not even good at that this season, and they have a horrible defensive structure these days. They have horrible counter press. You're just doing like, I don't know. Maybe Rodri did deserve the Ballon d'Or, man. Because oh my God, this team looks horrible now. But we must say that they still have the talent to damage us. And Real Madrid, especially at the beginning of the season, anyone could create chances against Real Madrid. Anyone, any team, Mallorca, any team could create chances against Madrid. But now, bro, in our basically the aura that we have now with Mbappe, Rodrigo, Vinny, and company, like it shouldn't be. We should be favorites. I think that's the statement. We haven't been favorites against City the last few years. This is probably the first year where we're favorites, actual
Yeah.
favorites.
We are. No, we
Real Madrid
literally
is just
are.
playing
Yeah.
great. We're playing great now.
Yeah, I mean, literally the bookies have us as favorites in this tie. I mean, as they should. I mean, we're a
Yeah,
higher
of
seed.
course.
We've had a better season, and despite us not being at our best, I think what gives me hope too is that you're starting to see people like hit their stride. Whether that's Mbappe, although look, he didn't have a great game last game, but he did. Apart from the finishing, he was good, and he's been good for like the last like month or so. Rodrigo hitting his stride. That's huge. That's really huge. Vinny will be back. I mean, he's missed like a couple games here and there, combination of suspensions and other things. So I think that gives me hope. Have you seen the schedule?
For City or for us?
Well, for both.
I know for City is like really bad, and for us we have like a game, 2 games every week for like 9 consecutive weeks, something like that, right?
I think it's the quality of the opponent is what maybe makes it even more challenging because we have Atletico just before City, 3 days before,
Mm.
then away to Osasuna, and then we have City again. But because I've seen a few Madridistas point this out, and I'm like, yeah, it's not easy. That's life. Look at City's schedule: Arsenal away, then they got FA Cup, Real Madrid, then they got Newcastle, Real Madrid, and then after that, whatever. It's not our problem, but they have Liverpool and Tottenham away, I think, or Liverpool and then Tottenham away. So it doesn't. It's not easy for them either. So I don't know. It sucks that we have to play 2 extra games.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll just if we pass this test with flying colors, we'll take that momentum into the next round. We have a super chat. Nishlesh Patil says Valverde started against Salzburg because Vasquez was suspended on yellows, which is true. And
It
if
is
Vas,
true.
yeah,
It is true. But I remember Valverde started at right back against. Was it against? I think this isn't his first game as a right back this
you
season.
mean this year or
No, this season.
there was probably another one, and I just can't remember. What's
I
crazy
think
is
it's
that Vasquez has just started every possible minute that he's
right,
like available.
and that's not possible. Like you can't go from playing 1,500 minutes a season to playing over 2,000. Like, and not at that age. It's just not normal. That's why he got injured. And in my opinion, I think Ancelotti by now knows that he has to go with Valverde as a right back. He has to. He has to. Like, there's no other way around it. We got cooked by Theo and Leao. We got cooked by Dortmund left side. We get cooked by every single big team left
Everybody.
side.
It's not.
Sorry,
It's not even just big teams, bro. Rayo Vallecano targeted
that's yeah.
Vasquez. The Club World Cup against Pachuca. I think his name was. I think that cat's name was Idrisi, the guy
Oh,
in
yeah.
left wing. Just going at Vasquez, man.
Yeah,
Look, if you're gonna, I get that you have to um play Vasquez because he's your only right back, but I'd prefer him to play against Leganes. Like for example, our next
right,
game is we play against Espanyol, I think. Play that game, and rest Fede in that game if you want,
right.
but don't put Vasquez against City.
No, and I think Ancelotti, because sometimes it gets to him a bit late, but he usually gets there. Like, it took him a few games for him to know not to put in the same midfield cross in Modric. It took him a few games to do 4 midfielders. It took a few games for him and his first season back to put Valverde as a right winger. It takes usually a few games for him. But usually, when the good thing Ancelotti is when we get to February and March, oh man, this team starts running again. And I remember you saying, which is basically why listening to Managing Madrid is so valuable, because you get this, this little pieces of value that you look back on them. I remember you saying with Barca scoring 10 goals a game, you saying, listen, something I don't like is when teams peak too early. And Madrid usually never peaks too early. The last time this happened, I remember it was the 22-23 season, the one the World Cup goes in the middle. That Real Madrid, that pre-World Cup Real Madrid was playing insane. Like, it was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen for the team. But we picked too early, and this Ancelotti team usually is the opposite. We play horrible the first few months of the season, And February, March, April, May, those 4 months, this team usually beats the big teams and usually does well at the big games. So we'll see, man. I have high hopes for this Real Madrid team, and I prefer playing City. Not prefer, right? Because I prefer playing Stormgrass. But if I had to play City or Bayern, I'd rather play City, to be honest.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah. You talk about like peaking early too. I mean, there's been actually more than one occasion where Real Madrid have peaked early in like the first half of the season. They go through an unbeaten run that's like, really impressive, and then they just kind of run out of gas or they lose depth and they got injuries. Um you talk about also Ancelotti figuring things out by now. And I don't know if he has necessarily figured things out, but if you remember the 2022 run, he had to make a change. And I think where it hit rock bottom was the first leg in Paris against PSG,
Yeah.
where Messi misses the penalty, Mbappe scores at the end. That was basically the last time Carlo trusted
Right.
Marco Asensio.
Oh, yeah.
And then he started to incorporate Rodrigo more because at that time, if you remember, Asensio was ahead of Rodrigo,
I
which made
remember.
no sense because Rodrigo was better and he played defense at a higher level too, and Asensio would just walk around. And then he incorporated Camavinga more, and that was a big turning point, I think, in the season because by the time after that, he just changed things because he realized he had to. So I don't know what conclusions will come that in what he'll realize he needs to do that is different than what he's already been doing. But I guess you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. There was something else I wanted to say about this and City and peaking early, but yeah, I mean, if you're gonna face City, it's probably now.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
possible
That's
if you
fine.
face them later in the tournament, for example, they may have figured shit out by then.
Yeah. Exactly. It's
Yeah,
better to play them now. It was better last year to play them at quarterfinals. It's better to play them early because you get rid of them early. It also gives the players a confidence boost, which we
yeah,
know these players need them because when we had our bad month and when we had those bad games, even Mbappe talked about it. I hit rock bottom against Athletic Bilbao. Sometimes those moments they accumulate themselves, right? And you want good momentum. And if this team beats City, like this still is, let's not forget, this still is one of the best teams in the world. Even though they're not playing good right now, it's still a Guardiola's team. They still have Erling Haaland. They still have De Bruyne, Foden. These players are in the top 10 Ballon d'Or, right? So it just gets the team running again, and the whole media and the whole basically vibe around the club. If we eliminate City, is guess what? These guys are going for the Champions League again. Real Madrid have a chance for the Champions League. And let's be honest, the first 6 months of the season, we were not talking about Madrid being favored for the Champions League. People were talking about Liverpool, Barca, other teams. These champions, specifically this tournament this year, feels more of like a free for all, like a free hit. Anyone could win it, right? But if Madrid eliminates City, which hopefully happens, why are they not? Why can they not be favorites? They could become favorites for the Champions League. Why not?
imagine being Atletico or Bayer Leverkusen. You work so hard to like make it to the top 8, and then your reward is you got to play either Real Madrid or Manchester City,
Yeah.
who just fucked around for half the season and then just stumbled into it. I guess like the real reward is not you avoid certain teams. I think it's just you avoid the 2 games and you get 2 extra games rest. That's probably the real reward. I mean, just looking at that though, like if you get past City, our track record against Atletico is in the Champions League is flawless. We got the psychological edge.
Who you prefer playing, Atletico or Leverkusen, with Alonso going to the Bernabeu?
That's a great question. I think it's Atletico. Only because there's just some kind of bad karma energy with like Xabi Alonso coming and like knocking us
Yeah,
out,
right.
and then
Yeah.
Real Madrid will be like, okay, well, this is our guy, and then we got to like, I don't know.
It
It's
feels too scripted, right? Like he beats us
Yeah, it's
at
a
the
lose
Bernabeu.
lose. It's a lose lose. We either humiliate Xabi Alonso and kick him out, or
Yeah.
he knocks us out.
Yeah. We either like beat Leverkusen 5-0, then Xabi Alonso is finished, Ancelotti goes to the pressing. So he's the new guy. So he was supposed to
Right.
be the new guy. Uh yeah. It'll
Yeah,
be lose lose.
it'll be interesting. I mean, yeah. Look, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. What else did you have on City? Did you have any other thoughts that we didn't address yet?
I think this is beautiful. You want to know why? Because we've always talked about the Mbappe versus Haaland. Bellingham rumors to go into City. We saw that the year before where we beat them. But it's beautiful to see Mbappe versus Haaland, not with PSG versus Manchester City, but with Real Madrid versus Manchester City. It's beautiful to see basically two of the best players in the world, two of the best players of the next generation playing. It's beautiful. This game is going to be beautiful, and this is also Manchester City's biggest test. Like we've seen their record against in big games this season is not good. But hey, man, they're also looking to turn things around. That's the thing, and they could because we can never trust Guardiola. This dude is. I mean, we've seen it, and this team, it's only missing Rodri, to be honest. All of their good players are basically back. Um, and also, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the Etihad because last few games we've been there, it's been cruel. 'Cause every time we go to the Etihad, it looks like we could concede 10 goals. Last time it wasn't like that, but last time it took a masterpiece, a defensive masterclass. Um, so I don't know. Like, let's see what goes on in Etihad. Etihad this season hasn't been that great, but we don't have a good record there.
Last 3 games at the Etihad, we've been outscored 9-4.
Not good. And the XG was probably insanely higher. We could have conceded. It could have been 15-4.
I mean that 4-3, the Benzema year. It was a miracle. We only lost by 1 goal.
It was a
That
miracle
game.
we scored 3 goals too.
Yeah. Look, I like the matchups. Kovacic will have to play like kind of the Rodri role. John Stones, stepping in. Don't like Doku versus Vasquez. Savinho versus Mendy worries me unless Mendy shows up. Foden is
Yeah.
not as good as he was last time we faced City.
Right. And the bad thing is, you want
We
to know,
got Rudiger versus Haaland. That'll be fun again.
that'd be fun again. I'm so interested in the Alaba thing, bro. In the Alaba thing, I'm so interested in because if he goes to start that fast against in this big of a game, I believe he's experienced enough, but it's gonna be tough.
I'll be honest. If you told us in December that David Alaba would be starting against Manchester City in the Champions League knockouts in like 2 months, I'd be shocked. I wouldn't believe you. I was like, no, this guy. I was skeptical he would even come back at any point. Like it
Yeah.
was just they kept pushing the date. They kept pushing the date. They kept pushing the date.
Yep.
So now he's here. We got a
Now he's
lot,
here.
a lot to discuss in the next few weeks.
Actually, I want to ask you something,
Please.
brother. So, what happens? Because we've only talked about what happens if or when we go through. What happens? What's a scenario if we get beat up by City? Not beat up. Let's say eliminated. We just don't make it. What's that? How's that looking? We get eliminated in the Bernabeu.
I'm assuming you're asking Ancelotti's job security.
I'm asking what we like. What happens next? You know, like what's the scenario then?
You focus on the league. And that's it. Kind of boring, but I don't think Ancelotti gets sacked if you
I don't
lose to
think so
City.
either.
because you still have like a 7 point edge on Barca in the league. You
Yeah.
still have the opportunity to close out and win a major trophy. You're still in the Copa, unless it's like just demolition, and like the worst city in years comes and just puts like 6 goals past you, and it's even then I don't
If
know.
you, bro, he survived a 4-0 at the Bernabeu and a defeat against Milan in a Spain that was in like a month, both at the Bernabeu. So
I
he's probably not going anywhere.
I'd like to point something out, and I don't think it's unfair to say it. If Carlo just approaches, the city ties the way he did against Barca in those 2 games, just why did he have like? What have we learned here? What did we learn against Barca in October? Obviously, nothing. We got even worse. We regressed from that first Clasico to the next one. So there's part of me that is pretty confident because of City's situation and because of Real just starting to get it together, Mbappe finding form, Rodrigo finding form, etc. Then there's another part of me that's like, is it just going to be like Chouameni, Alaba, Vasquez getting pinned, can't escape pressure, getting cooked, like playing horrible defense, not being able to escape or have to get the ball to Mbappe in transition? I feel like that's totally on the cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we will tell a lot if he's learned or not just by the starting 11. And to be honest, just but what he does with 2 positions, right? The right back and the midfield, and like the DM. Like if he stays with Vasquez as a right back and does not start Ceballos, then it's pretty clear he hasn't learned anything. And it's been pretty clear that that has happened in big games because he hasn't passed the test, right? Um, but if he plays Vasquez at right back and then just doesn't start Ceballos, it's GG's from there. It's like, okay, let's see how many goals will we concede. Hopefully not that much, and the Bernabeu we can just come back.
Let me ask you this, because we play Atletico 3 days before, and they play Arsenal before our game. We can't rest anyone against Atletico because they're right there behind us in the league. It's a big game. I mean, City are just so far behind Arsenal on the table. Will they even care to win that game, or will they just rest and focus on our game?
I think they will probably, knowing City, they will just do what every big team does, and at this stage of the season, you just go with your best team both games and not rest that much. Because I'm pretty sure, looking at did you see the Manchester City documentary of Guardiola, the
No,
treble season?
no.
Well, looking at that, he probably will want his players to get that confidence boost. He will love to beat Arsenal so the players get that confidence boost and get their mentality back up. So I think he's probably gonna kind of play the best players both teams, and I think that's what Ancelotti's gonna do too. Like
Yeah,
both
I
teams are gonna put up the strongest 11 at both games and tell the players, listen, bro, this isn't this time to rest. You play 2 games and let's keep going. I think that's what's gonna happen.
I
Both teams
also
are looking for the mentality boost.
yeah. I mean, I also just misread the schedule. There's actually a pretty big gap between Arsenal and Real Madrid. Those 2 games. So they play Arsenal February 2nd. So that's this weekend, and then they play the FA Cup game. So they actually will have a better margin of rest than us by a decent chunk too. So that'll actually work in their favor. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's fun though. It's fun to have these games back, right?
bro. I was talking to Lucas about this on the mailbag like just before I recorded with you, and he's like, "I'm bored of this City games. These playing City." I'm like, "No, dude. Like, bring on the Super League. Bring on we
Yeah,
play
bring on.
these games every
Yep.
every month, every year. I'm not bored of it. I'm bored of going to Osasuna. I'm bored of
Yeah.
I'm bored of talking about Alaves at home. I'm bored of that. These
Yeah.
there's so much football now. Like these are the games I get excited for on the schedule. You
Right.
know,
Right.
that's what I
And
want.
if you, in the last few years, bro, Madrid City have been just a movie, man.
Yeah.
They've really been just a movie.
Yes,
Just last year's game at the Bernabeu, the 3-3, that shit was a movie, brother.
that's the thing. Like there hasn't. If this was a case of like every year it's boring, like okay, fine. You have permission to be bored. It's been incredible with City. I mean,
It's been
whether
crazy.
you're a neutral Real Madrid or City fan, it's just been just crazy entertainment all these
Crazy
years.
games,
All these years.
crazy goals, brother. And
Yeah.
just remember, guys, this is the same, like this same year it happened. No, last year. Last year, City went to the Bernabeu and scored a goal at the first 10 minutes. That Bernardo Silva free kick, you remember that? That Tchouaméni yellow card at like 10 seconds, something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
That goal from Guardiola outside the box. That Fede Valverde volley with Vini's assist. I mean, it's great. It's a movie every time. And hopefully we have. So wait, if it's 2 movies, it's a sequel. If it's 3 movies, it's like the saga. If it's 4 movies, what's that? Like Fast and Furious, right? They have 10 movies. Like what's that?
I don't know what that's called.
Right, we're gonna have like the 5th version of this, and it gets more entertainment every time. So I love this, brother. I just want
I-
to see Mbappe
Ma-
versus City with these are the games we signed Mbappe for, bro. I want to see Mbappe for Real Madrid. Let's get that Ballon d'Or late run. Let's get it. Let's get that late run for the Ballon d'Or, man. Let's do a hat trick against City at the Etihad. Shut people up. So do the Holland celebration, then do the Aqua celebration, and let's get that late Ballon d'Or run. It's gonna be fun times, bro. Prepare. I want you guys to prepare because this Managing Madrid episodes they're gonna come like next few weeks. Oh, they're gonna be movie, bro. They're gonna be fire.
Well, I couldn't hear anything you said for like the past. Can you hear me?
What? Hello, can you
I don't
hear
know
me?
why I can't hear you anymore. But
Can you hear me?
I feel like I literally can't hear you right now, and I feel horrible because you literally look like you had this incredible monologue, your gestures and everything. I think it's a problem on my end, so I wouldn't sweat it. Either way, I think
Yo, people, can you hear me?
it's good
I think they
timing
can
that
hear me.
it's happening right now and not at the beginning of the podcast because I think we're done anyway, so it's not a huge deal. It's a problem on my end. Don't sweat it. With that said, great time to end. I think the listeners heard what you said, so that's all that matters. It's just that I couldn't. Will, for
Yo,
hopping on the show. It's good to
What?
have you back. We hope to have you back more often. Thanks for your time.
Can you-
Everyone, go follow Mr. Angelo Valdez on Twitter, Instagram, etc. He's on YouTube. Go to Los Futbolitos. If you're a Spanish speaker, great content in Spanish.
can you hear me
And
now?
you can also follow Will doing lots of boxing. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in.
You can't hear me?
And peace out.